If we want to be really great, we have to get over ourselves. I had this extraordinary experience a couple of weeks ago when I was out on the East Coast at a remarkable institute called Global Village. It's a gathering of a little more than 100 college-age students from 54 countries from all over the world, emerging and rising leaders in business and industry who come together for 5 weeks of exchange of ideas and training. It's a beautiful thing. I was there for the last couple of days, and as I was meeting with these young people, I knew for sure, deep within, I knew from the quality of the young people that I was encountering, that I was talking to future prime ministers and human rights champions, innovators in science and technology, and those who in the decades to come will wage peace upon the world. The last day I participated in a leadership panel, and there were 3 other panelists. Each one after the other was so impressive. They got up and they spoke to the students about their potential, about what they could do to make a difference in the world, about their inner greatness. There's a habituation loop where educators tell the young and glittering how fabulous and wonderful they are. And the young and glittering begin to expect it, these prophecies of their greatness. And I looked out at the crowd, I looked out at each of the young people, and I caught a glimmer of something I had seen before. I took a deep sniff, and I smelled something in the air that I had smelt before. Anxiety. Anxiety. Restless, gnawing anxiety. Here was that message again. You can do anything you want to do. You can be anyone you want to be. Then they gave me the microphone. I must have been out of my mind because I heard myself saying, I want to talk to you today about how you're not great. I want to talk to you, I said. I heard myself saying, I want to talk to you about how you're not great. Because we've been telling you for 5 weeks, probably we've been telling you all your lives how great you are. And it's true. The greatness in this room is beyond the telling of it. It can't even be measured. But at night, do you ever stare into the darkness and when you're all alone, wonder if maybe there are parts of you that are not great? Do you ever come crashing up against your weaknesses or your limitations and no fear there? It was an electric moment, and not because I was trying to be dramatic, but because these young people all over think all the time about these questions. Am I enough? Will I measure up? Will I let everybody down? Will I find someone to love? Will I screw that up? Am I going to fail? Am I going to fail? The oracle at Delphi uttered, Gnose auton, know thyself. And then that inscription, know thyself, was put over the entrance of the academy in Athens at the beginning of what in the West has been called the enterprise of education. Know yourself. And our weaknesses, I wonder if our weaknesses are not among the most important parts of who we are. Our weaknesses, our limitations, for us to know them and to come to terms with them. Because I think we're all generally messed up about the strict... I think we're all generally messed up about the strict causal relationship between weakness and limitation and failure. Because when leaders fail, when we really fail, when we hurt people and cause great harm, It's not so much because of our weaknesses or even because we misuse our strengths. It's more than we know because we're trying to conceal our weaknesses and because we haven't come to terms with them. We have to come to terms. We have to come to terms with who we are, the components of our lives, our strengths, our weaknesses, and how they put us together into the person who's called to be who we're called to be. And each of us has to make a decision. When we crash up against our weaknesses and our limitations, we have to make a decision. Are we going to let that experience cause us to turn in on ourselves and yield to the self-pity which sullies and besmirches the human spirit? Or will that experience impel us to go out of ourselves in search of others who can supply for our lack and who need our talents and gifts more than we need them? When we shout at young people, you can be anything you want to be, you can do anything you want to do, they get anxious because that leaves them all alone with the sovereign choices of their own will. But the deep existential experience of my lack, of my need, of my limitations, although it's dangerous because it can take us into despair, when mingled with wisdom, when mingled with wisdom, it becomes that great power which causes me to look at the world and say, my brother, my sister, which impels us to community. But it does not come to us automatically. It has to be taught and it has to be modeled. The Nahua people of Mesoamerica have a saying that we are born without a face and without a heart. And the heart is given by God, but the face we receive from the people with whom we grow, from the community. And the elders of the people, those who are educators, are called upon to be mirrors without smoke. Very beautiful. Educators are called to be mirrors without smoke, the ones in whom I can see my true face and receive my identity. Mirrors without smoke. Our culture of education from pre-K to the doctorate is awash with a whirlpool of praise and affirmation. And that's all really great. It's good to cheer for people. It's good. But along the way, young people also need someone to whom they can lift up their whole selves with their weaknesses and foibles and stupidities and the indiscretions that are the prerogative of youth, and receive love there. And I'm not talking about a sugary, sticky, saccharine kind of love, but a love that's as strong as death, a love that shows me how to give myself away. I've known a love like that. You know, when I was 34 years old, I was appointed as president of a university. It's 4 years later now. I'm still the youngest. I'm still the youngest college or university president in America. My predecessor had led the University of Mary for 31 years. She's one of the world's great people. She's so well loved by everyone. Her portrait hangs in the state capitol of North Dakota. And I was supposed to follow her. And I was a high school teacher and a small town pastor. I didn't have the wherewithal to lead a large and complex organization like that with a multi-million-dollar budget. I didn't know what I was doing. And I was right. I didn't know what I was doing. I fall and fail 100 times a day, or fall short. failure maybe is a different thing because, because every night I sit in my office and tidal waves of my own inadequacies crash up upon me as I think about the great enterprise that I've been asked to lead. And people remind me of my inadequacies. I make paper airplanes out of my hate mail. And I've got enough of a fleet that I could invade Canada. And yet, that crash course in my own limitations, which I'm still undergoing, has been so important to the development of my character and the strength of my own ability to lead. Because it's caused me to have to reach out and find those who can help to supply my lack, and to find those who need my gifts more than I need them. And the university, well, it's growing and flourishing, and students are happy, and I'm happy with what I'm doing and who I've been called to be. You know, the night of my inauguration, I stood on the stage at the Bismarck Civic Center and announced to thousands of people that we were going to, the University of Mary in Bismarck, North Dakota, was going to found a campus in Rome, Italy, halfway across the world. I may as well have announced that we were founding a campus on the moon. A couple of months later, I left for Rome with a group of our student leaders to choose a home for our campus. And among those students was the president of our student body, a remarkable young man who had a brightness in him. And we went over together and came home, and I heard him one day talking to some of his friends. And I'll never forget in all my life what he said. I'll never forget it. Because it captures so much what I deeply believe about how we come to see our lives once we get over ourselves. He said, when we were in Rome, we walked on the cobblestones to the ruins of the Roman Forum. We stood inside of the Colosseum, and we heard as though from the marble the bloodthirsty cries coming to us from across the centuries. We saw the Circus Maximus and the palace from which the Caesars ruled the world. We stood in St. Peter's Square with a crowd of 100,000 from every country in the world. We knelt to pray at the tombs of the saints, and we crouched in the damp underground corridors of the catacombs. And when I was in Rome, I felt the rise and the fall of life and of civilizations. And I gazed across the past, and I saw a prophecy and a glimpse of what the future could be. I felt in my bones the shadow of empire and the light of faith, and I felt so small. And yet, at the same time, I felt like my life could make a difference. He said, I felt so small, and yet, at the same time, I felt like my life could make a difference. Everybody, it's true, it's true. Listen, in order ever really to be great, we have to get over ourselves. Thank you.